From the kitchen of the cabin, it's the 5 games for Doomsday review. Human punishment. What do Dickens' Mystery of Edwin Drood, Mozart's Requiem, and the Adoration of the Magi by Da Vinci have in common? I'll give you a second. That's right, they were all unfinished. The Reaper of Souls had the impatience, presumption and unforgivable crassness to pop round for a visit before giving these gentlemen time to tidy up the last paragraph, stick a dot above the quaver and add that little bit of blue. They all had a decent excuse for not getting their work done, you see. It's bloody hard to do a half-decent rendition of a goat with a halo when your fingers are all rigor mortisy. Another thing these inestimable gentlemen understood is what to do when confronted with a lacuna. You fill it. You make sure the gap is well and truly stuffed before you release it to the public. Henry James, for instance, would fill gaps in his text with lots and lots of very boring words. You don't just throw the bloody thing out into the world without giving it a good polish first. You leave that to the grasping relatives after you've gone. At least that should be the principle. Before you ask the general public to part with the coins that they've managed to wrench from the talons of the plutocrats, that's telling you, Ayn Rand, you should make sure that you're selling them something you've finished, not just cobbled together, stuck in some packaging and charged 30 quid for. I'm all for the democratisation of production. Crowdfunding is a wonderful thing. It brings the ability to create out of the boardroom and industrial complex into the garden shed and dining room table. There is no chance that a person so willfully obtuse and grumpy as myself could garner any kind of listenership without the freedom that the internet has brought us. But it's not all just wallets made out of horse teeth and sick Henry James burns. There is also the chance for people to grab a big lump from the midden pile, wrap it in shiny paper, and flog it to you as chocolate. Human Punishment is a social deduction game ripped from the rulebook of Bang, and even though it purloins most of its ideas, it's still not finished. The game is set in a Terminator-style world where machines have taken over and the human freedom fighters mount an insurrection to save the species. Players are divided by means of cards dealt to them at the beginning of the game into one of 3 teams: machines, humans or outlaws, but no one knows who anyone else is. The machines win by killing the humans by eradicating the other 2 teams, and the outlaws by standing alone at the end of the game. If this sounds similar to a Western-themed game with 3 teams, you'd be mistaken. It's not similar. It's exactly the same, and although dividing players into teams is certainly not a copyrightable idea, the thematic disconnect of the outlaws. Are they machines then? Aren't the humans outlaws already? Hints at the fact that the idea has been lifted from elsewhere and dropped into this game with no thought for thematic connection. It all seems a little too close for comfort for me, and if you're going to heavily borrow from something, at least fix its major flaw. But in a world where people will throw money at nice art, that seems altogether like too much hard work. The big issue I had with Bang was that it was too long, and Human Punishment is longer, painfully long, willfully long, Henry James long. There has been no refinement in the mechanics of the game it takes inspiration from. You can't see the snarky italics, but believe me, they're there. And the introduction of a myriad of take-that cards has prolonged the agony to the point where someone I was playing the game with described it as 30 minutes of fun stretched into 2 hours. It's a game that seems unwilling to finish, and like Benjamin Franklin's Guests, ends up reeking by the end of it. Then there is the player elimination. I have no issue with player elimination in general, but its use here is egregious. Player elimination is divisive because it willfully ejects a player from the table, so its use has to be judicious or it'll produce the kind of disgruntlement that can sour an entire experience. The modern move away from player elimination is a good thing. Human Punishment takes all of the lessons learnt by games like The Resistance and throws them out of the window with no thought as to how that will affect the game. I played a game where a player was eliminated 10 minutes into a 2-hour game and had to sit around because there was a possibility he may be resurrected by a random card draw. Oh, did I mention that there is resurrection and this is enacted by a random card draw? Oh, I didn't. Well, there is, and it makes me want to smash things. The fact is that these kind of fun-sapping errors could have been ironed out with a couple of rounds of blind playtesting. Now, I'm sure the game was playtested, but with not enough rigour. After I finished playing the other night, we sat around and dissected the experience we'd had, and after 10 minutes had come up with loads of simple ideas that would have fixed some of the game's glaring issues. I suggest to the publisher that they do the same. Human punishment is an iteration, an idea that has been covered in, admittedly wonderful art and sold as something finished. It isn't. It's crudely unfinished, and at least Da Vinci, Mozart and Dickens had a decent excuse. This review has been made possible by the donations of my patrons. You can become one too by going to patreon.com/5G4D. Thank you for listening.